All right, welcome to today's show. So I'm going to jump in today and I'm going to talk about the price movement on BMNR today. And we're going to talk a little bit about the volatility. Secondly, I'm going to talk about why I believe BMNR is the next MSTR and what I believe will happen in October and November. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about Tom Lee, who is the voice and one of the founders of BMNR, or I should say the chairman of BMNR, and what is good with Tom Lee and the crew of investors he has on board. So hello to Sergeant, hello to Lulu. How you guys doing? And this is not tax advice, not financial advice, not legal advice. I'm also going to show today a little bit of just charts that I look at. So when you're looking at the volatility swings, I've been watching this stock and trading it for over 2.5 months now, looking at it every day, 5 days a week for the last 75, 80 days. And I'm going to share with you things that I've observed with it. So if you're ever curious about BMNR, and if I were looking at it and I'd be thinking, is this a good entry point? Have we hit the peak of BMNR? Is it going to go higher? Why do I believe it's going to go higher? And I'm going to show you some charts, not from a technical analysis standpoint to get techie, because I'm not techie, but just to show you simplicity of the price movement of the stock so you can understand it. If you want a deep dive on all the things that I believe in, such as MSTR, Bitcoin, Ethereum, BMNR, you can go ahead and go get my new book, Money Game. It's down below, and it is completely free. So if you want to go get yourself a copy of it, I go into quite a bit in this book. I talk about how taxes, inflations, and fees and asset inflation eat your rates of return. And if you're not getting beyond 12%, you're basically treading water. I talk about the new game of money and the problem with our current society and money and the history of money. And I talk about how I invest. I also talk a little bit about how I trade. And it's all here in the book. So if you want to go get it, you're more than welcome to go download it for free, my friend. Okay, so let's jump in and let's talk about what's what and what's going on. So this stock has moved extremely in volatile ways over the last several months. And if you recall, a couple months ago, if you were watching the stock, there was a day where we went from like low 60s all the way up to 72. So within the last couple months, this maybe 2.5 months, 2 months, we hit about a 72 marker on this thing, and meaning the price went to 72. And if you look at the last couple weeks and even today, I'm going to show you some charts here so you can see. You can see the swing today was from $65.50, and we went as low as about $58.70 today. So this is not my creation here, these charts. This is James from Invest Answers, to give credit where credit is due. But if you go look here on this chart and you're paying attention up here, this was the peak up here. And this is the 10-minute chart. So when I'm looking at trading, because I trade this on a daily basis, but I'm also holding this longer term, I'm looking at the 10-minute chart. I'm also looking at the chart on 3 minutes. But for price reasons here, look up here. This price here, it was about $65.50. And when the trend started to turn down here, we watched it drop all the way down, and you don't get another signal to buy this thing till it hits right here, right around $59. Okay? Right here, if you're looking here. So you're looking at a swing from $65.50 all the way to about, it went down to $58.70. That is over a 10% swing, and this baby moves. And if you watched it move yesterday, I mean, look at this freaking move yesterday. BMNR goes all the way from, I think we opened yesterday. Let's see where we opened. So it's Monday morning. We open here at around $56. And then we shoot all the way up to the end of Monday to around here to like $63. I think it went to $64 after hours. So what a scream from 56 to 63. And then it tops off at 65 today. And it drops back down, as you can see over here. We drop back down fully here to 60 to $59. Okay. So if you look now where we are currently, you can look here. Here's where the price is currently. It's right hovering right around 60. So that's a freaking move, man. So this thing is extremely volatile, and we are in what's called Uptober. So I expect the gains to be face melting. But as far as you look at BMNR, it's been up and down. 2 months ago, up at 72. It started the day at 61 at that time. Then it came all the way back down the next day. So when I'm looking at this, and for me, I'm trading it, but I'm also holding it long term, I just understand that it's volatile. If you even go back here and you go look where we were here on, let's go to October 2nd. Let's look at the price point. So you look October 2nd, I'll just pick a price on October 2nd. This is October 2nd. It's at $55. You go earlier on October 2nd, we're still here. We're down to $53, $52. I'll show you a place point here. It's like $52 here. 53 here. You even go back. This is still October 1st, October 2nd. So you're looking like from $53 on October 1st, October 2nd, all the way up to $65, like what? Not even a week later. That's a 20% swing. And yesterday it had a massive swing. So the point is, I'm showing you the volatility of this stock. And I'm showing you how it moves. And it moves incredibly, incredibly aggressively. And it's extremely volatile. And so when you look at this, this is kind of like the old days of trading. When you look at MSTR moves like this or moves like this. Not quite as volatile as BMNR is right now from what I'm seeing. But it's incredibly volatile, the stock. So one, when I'm looking at getting involved and I have a heavy position in BMNR, one of the things I look at is the price volatility. And the first thing that I look at from what I just showed you is you have to be prepared for swings. And you have to be prepared for it to go all the way up and then shoot all the way down. And that's just in a day where we saw the potential of this thing moving 12, 13% in a day. So one, when I invest in stuff like this, I invest and I know that I'm going to get the swings. Number two, I'm looking at BMNR from the same lens that I looked at MSTR at. When you look at MSTR back in 2020 and all the way to today to 2025, it's like a 25x. And when you look at Bitcoin back in 2020 all the way to today, it's approximately 11x or 12x. So we look at these, the difference between, the two, and it's clear that MSTR over that time frame. Now, clearly, MSTR is a little bit shaky and a little bit not moving at its current MNAV like it normally does, or its normal MNAV, I should say. But when we look at the time frame over 5 years, and you look at MSTR 5 years ago, it's very clear that MSTR shot up and it outpaced Bitcoin. And so now when we're looking at the same lens of BMNR and Ethereum, we know that BMNR holds Ethereum on their balance sheet. It's the majority of the holdings. It's their primary strategy to accumulate as much Ethereum as possible. They want to go for 5% Ethereum, and they're going to get there. And already they're over 2%. And right now, when you look at the assets on their balance sheet, they're at $13 billion in assets on their balance sheet. So they're accumulating BMNR. BMNR is accumulating Ethereum at a much faster rate than Strategy was accumulating Bitcoin back then. And Strategy did a 25x over the last 5 years, and Bitcoin did an 11x. So when you start to look at Ethereum and BMNR as a metaphor or a similar play, what's going to happen to Ethereum over the next 4 or 5 years, and what's going to happen to BMNR over the next 4 or 5 years? And right now, when we look at BMNR, the MNAV, so you got the net asset value of BMNR. So you take the total value of the assets on the balance sheet, which is made up right now of Ethereum. It's also made up of a little bit of Bitcoin. It has some cash on there, and it's got a moonshot investment that they chose in a company called 8Co. And 8Co basically exists for a very simple reason. They've partnered up with somebody called WorldCoin, which is Sam Altman's company. And together they've partnered because on the blockchain, we're going to have a problem soon. And it's going to be called, the solution is going to be called Proof of Human. And Proof of Human is basically, if I'm going to trade money or send money to you, I need to know that you're a human. And so it combines the two companies of 8Co and WorldCoin together, 8Co for the transactions and WorldCoin to look at your eyes. It basically scans your orb to see that you're actually human, and it's Proof of Human. And so I love what BMNR is doing because they're also building out the infrastructure of the blockchain and making sure that the blockchain is more safe, and they're investing in companies like this. And so when we look at the treasury of BMNR, it's made up of Ethereum, it's made up of Bitcoin, it's made up of cash, and it's also made up of this company 8Co that it invested in weeks back or a month back or whatever it was, invested 20 million and now it's worth over 200 million. But the majority of their treasury is Ethereum, and that's their main play. And so the difference between Strategy and BMNR is Strategy just holds Bitcoin, and BMNR holds a majority of Ethereum, but holds some other assets like this. And so if I'm looking at the play and I'm zooming 4 or 5 years out, I'm looking at BMNR from the perspective of this is the next MSTR. It's the next strategy. There's no question about it. And if I was able to get into Strategy 5 years ago, which I bought a little bit of shares in 2020 of Strategy because I was so gung-ho on Michael Saylor that I bought some, but I didn't hold on to them. I sold out. And then I bought back into Strategy in early 2024 when it was $78. But if I had rewound the clock and I knew, and I looked back and I was like, wow, I could have gotten into Strategy 5 years ago. Metaphorically, this is a very similar play with BMNR. What if you could get in at the beginning? And we are at the beginning. This company's, since they started acquiring Ethereum on their balance sheet, it's only been a few months now. So I expect over the next 4 or 5 years it to be huge and massive. And when you look in the marketplace, there's going to be two major players in the marketplace. You're going to have Strategy that gobbles up all the Bitcoin, and you're going to have BMNR that gobbles up the Ethereum. And you'll have some second bests, but they're so far ahead at this point that I don't think anybody's going to catch them. I also like BMNR because Tom Lee is the voice. And when you look back to 2017, when Tom was on, I think, CNBC or one of the news channels, he was recommending that people put 1% of their portfolio into Bitcoin. And Bitcoin was at $1,000 to $2,000 then. And so this is kind of that moment where Tom talks about this being the moment for Ethereum, which is this kind of like the Ethereum moment, like Bitcoin back in 2017. And his predictions for Ethereum over the next 4 or 5 years, maybe even sooner, is $60,000 Ethereum. So right now we're at 40. Let's go look at the charts right here. We are at on Ethereum. I think we dropped below 4,500 today. Now, mind you, we were up at $4,750 on Ethereum today. We dropped all the way down to $4,460. So the point is that BMNR is extremely volatile, and it has incredible properties in it that I look at in terms of its features that I'm extremely bullish on. One, I like the volatility, and I was just showing you on the charts right now how it moves and how it moved 13% in the last day or so. But I like that because the opportunity for the upside is huge. Additionally, I like the fact that Tom Lee is in the game because he has Wall Street in his ear. He just does. He's got the trust of Wall Street. And when you look at Saylor, Saylor came into the game in 2020. He had to earn Wall Street's trust, and he did it, and he did it powerfully. But Tom already came into the game with them in his back pocket, speaking in their ear, whatever you want to call it. Now, you also look at some of the investors that are invested in BMNR. You have blue chip investors. You've got Peter Thiel, who owns a 9.1% stake. You've got Pantera, which invests in blockchain projects. They're investors. You got Galaxy Digital, which invests in blockchain projects as well, and invests heavily into Ethereum projects as well. So you've got these investors involved. You also got ARK Investments involved as well. So you got a lot of blue chip investors involved in the game that are backing this as well, and are putting their money where their mouth is. And then you've got Ethereum, and you got the basic understanding that Wall Street, to some degree, trusts Ethereum right now and is looking at that as one of the chains that they're going to build on. And they're already doing it. So when you look at all these reasons of why the future for BMNR looks bright, I just gave you the reasons. Now, when I'm looking to buy it, trade it, however you want to take a look at this, it is looking at this chart. We can take a look at this chart here. I also will look at how Ethereum's doing as well. So when I'm trading it, I'm looking, I'll just show you this right here. I'm gonna share my screen with you. So let's look here. So when I'm looking at BMNR, I'm also looking at Ethereum because it tracks Ethereum. So if you look at the movement on Ethereum today, it's very similar to what I was showing you with BMNR, right? And they move kind of hand in hand. So if I'm looking to invest in it or trade it, what have you, I'm looking at both viewpoints of, is Ethereum dropping? And I kind of look at Ethereum as the lead indicator on this. Is Ethereum dropping? Yeah, if Ethereum is dropping, then BMNR is going to be dropping as well. So when you look up here and you take a look at where Ethereum started dropping up here today, it hit $4,740, and then it dropped all the way down to $4,470 down here. So you look at this huge drop down here. So if I'm looking to invest in BMNR, which I'm already invested, but I do trade it, I'm looking at this as an indicator. And then I also do watch Bitcoin as well. And because Bitcoin and Ethereum tend to move in tandem, like there's like an 80 or 90% correlation on that. So I look at both of them to see how's Bitcoin doing. Is Bitcoin dropping? That's an indication of what Ethereum might do. If Ethereum's dropping, then I look, BMNR is probably going to drop. And BMNR pretty much drops all the time when Ethereum drops, because their largest holding on their balance sheet is Ethereum. And that's how the game is played. And when I am looking at making moves on things, trading day to day, I trade on the 3-minute. I watch on the 10-minute charts. So I watch to see what the 10 minutes doing. You see here, this trend is turning. Again, this is not my tech. It's James from Invest Answers Tech, to give him credit. It goes from blue to yellow, and you watch this thing drop all the way down here, right? So I watch the 10-minute also, and then I also watch the 5-minute to see what the 5 minutes doing too. So when I make decisions on this asset, if I'm going to buy it and sell it, these are the things that I'm using. I use the 3-minute charts. I use the 5-minute charts. I use the 10-minute charts. I watch Bitcoin. I watch Ethereum to see what they're doing as leading indicators. And then based on what they're doing, it kind of informs for me what's going to happen on BMNR. And on BMNR, I'm not teaching a trading course on this right now. I have my own software that I'm developing. It'll be out in the next 2 months. It's completely gamified. The whole thing's a game. It's incredibly simple. There's not confusing charts and confusing technical analysis, and it's a game. So I created it to make trading simple, but the main reason I created it is because I'm making on average at a bare minimum 5% a week trading. And so I'm like, more people need to get in the game and learn how to trade, because if you can invest in good assets and you can ride those good assets out, but you can also trade them along the way and pick up extra money. I could be sitting here to the end of the year and watching BMNR go up and perhaps do a double. Maybe it breaks 100, maybe it goes up 50%. And I watch this stock move, and maybe I pick up a 70, maybe I pick up 100%, maybe it goes higher. But I could trade it every week, and I can pick up a minimum 5% every week. So over the next 2 months, while we're sitting in the bull run, or 3 months, however long it goes, 5%, 5%, 5% is 20% a month on top of what the investment's doing. Make sense? So that's the idea of basically what I do on a day-to-day basis. I enjoy trading it, and I enjoy holding it as well. I don't trade out of all of my position at once, so I've got a pretty sizable position in BMNR, but I will trade anywhere from 30 to 40% of the portfolio in any given time to put some extra money in my pocket and have some fun. So there is the scenario. So those are the reasons why I like BMNR. I wanted to show you the charts because it is very volatile. I also like BMNR because I do believe that when you have a spokesperson behind it like Tom Lee, just like we have Saylor for MSTR, it's going to move this stock more. You're going to get more visibility. You're going to get more retail investors involved. You're going to get more people on YouTube making videos about it. If you looked at the videos on BMNR 2 months ago, there was a fraction of what there is now. Now you look, there's dozens and dozens and dozens of videos on BMNR. So it's becoming a hot topic because many people are looking, and they're looking for the next big thing. And I believe that this is the next big thing. And not just the next big thing from the perspective of, hey, we're going to get a moonshot and this thing's going to go through the roof. I just think it's got very sound principles. I do think that there are other great chains out there like Solana, but I do believe that Wall Street is going to move on to Ethereum because it's the most trusted. It has not been down in 10 years. And so the risks are very low. And you look at the number of projects being built on the blockchain right now. If you didn't watch my video the other day, you got PayPal already built on the blockchain right now. They have their own stable coin. You've got Swift. They're testing on the blockchain right now. They do something like $11 trillion in cross-border payments a year in terms of the amount of money that they move. We've got BlackRock. They have a whole project in terms of building on the blockchain. We've got Robinhood's on the blockchain. We've got Coinbase's on the blockchain. We've got so many different elements of Wall Street and the banking structure moving onto the blockchain. And all of these projects, by the way, are on Ethereum. We've got 60 to 70% of the stablecoin market on Ethereum. It's just, to me, it's really hard to see a future where Ethereum does not go through the roof. I just don't see a future where that's not going to happen. And if Ethereum goes through the roof, BMNR is going to go through the roof. So what could happen with it? Right now, it's trading anywhere from a 1.3, 1.4 MNAV. When it went way up the other day, it was trading around a 1.4 MNAV, which means it's trading about 40% above the value of the assets that it has on its balance sheet of Ethereum. So it's trading at a premium to that. So in a normal world, whatever it had on its balance sheet with Ethereum, the stock would trade in proportion to that. The stock's not. People are willing to pay 40% more for the stock. Pretty much moves in the range of 30% and was high the other day. I think the MNAV will go over 2. And I think we may see that sometime in October or November, maybe November that'll happen. And that means if Ethereum goes up to 6,000, 7,000, 8,000, you can pretty much do the math and figure out what might happen with BMNR. So that is the weather and the sports for what's happening. I see there's some different questions in the marketplace. If you do want to get a copy of my book, Money Game, down below, it talks about MSTR, talks about Bitcoin, talks about Ethereum, talks about BMNR, talks about the Fed, talks about the rate of return on all your money and how to figure that out, talks about asset inflation, talks about taxes, talks about traditional investments, talks about AI money wars, talks about a little bit about my trading strategy. It's all in there. It's free. Go snag it down below, and you can get details on everything that I'm talking about here. But yeah, so there's it's funny. We'll see. We're going to see what happens with MSTR and BMNR. I do think I'm a big believer in MSTR as well. I still have my positions in MSTR. I'm just excited about this. This is the new thing. It's not like I'm exiting MSTR right now. I'm holding on to my position. I'm going to ride it up through the bull run. I will take some profits. I'm holding on to BMNR right now. I'm going to ride it up through the bull run. I will take some profits. And I just think it's an exciting time right now. And look, Bitcoin just hit an all-time high again yesterday. So we are positioned for a very, very exciting time. And if you want to get anything into technical analysis, I get no referral for this. Go check out James at Invest Answers. He's got really good tech. And if you want to if you don't know anything about technical analysis, anything about trading, it's still good to look at the charts to have an idea of what's happening with the trend of the stock that you're in, so you can kind of see what's happening with your own eyes. If you did not see what I shared earlier on in the video, you can take a look right here. These are the charts that I will look at when I trade. And you can see it tells you when it's going up and when the trend line changes here. As you can see right here, it goes from blue to yellow. Again, this is James Tech from Invest Answers. You see the trend line turns here and it goes all the way down, and we're waiting for it to actually start turning blue, which it's about to start turning blue. And it looks like we might have an uptrend maybe tomorrow where the stock will go back up, but we'll see. So there's different types of things you can look at to understand what's happening with the stock you're invested in. You might not be invested in BMNR. You might be in Ethereum. You can do the same thing for Ethereum. You look at the 10-minute, you can look at the 3-minute, you can zoom out and you can go look at the 1-hour chart here and see what's happening there. And you can get an idea of what's going on. And so that is the basic of what I wanted to share with you guys today, and just give you a recap on what I covered. So number one, we talked about the volatility of BMNR. 2 months ago, it went up to $72 in one day, all the way from 61 to 72, and then all the way back down. So this thing's very volatile. It's had 20% moves in a day. The other day, it had a 13, 14% move, which was yesterday. It went all the way up, $65.50. It was at this morning, and it went all the way down to $58.70 today. And now it's sitting around $60. So it's incredibly volatile. The MNAV right now is trading about a 1.3, so it's 30% premium on the stock. If you look back to the days of MSTR in 2020 is now a 25x to what it was in 2020. Bitcoin's an 11x to what it was approximately. So fast forward 5 years, what could happen with Ethereum? If Ethereum goes up by X in 5 years, what will BMNR be at? I'm sure it'll be higher than Ethereum is my guess. So there could be a similar play where getting into BMNR right now, not financial advice and all, not tax advice, not legal advice. Again, disclaimer. This could be the moment where, the next 5 years could be really pretty for this thing. And the next two months, I think, is going to be really, really nice as well. The other thing is we look at the other thing that's attractive about BMNR is the fact that the staking of Ethereum, they may stake Ethereum in the future. So if they do stake the Ethereum, they might get a 3 to 4% spiff on this thing. So if they have $10 billion worth of Ethereum, the income they would be getting per year off it might be 300 to 400 million. If their Ethereum value is $20 billion at that time, they'd be bringing in 600 to 700 million, 800 million a year. So that's income coming into the company that makes it that much more valuable. And it looks like they're probably going to stake in the future. So that makes it super attractive. Tom Lee's behind it. That makes it attractive. He's got Wall Street. Literally, he's talking in their ear all the time. They're talking in his ear. He was right about Bitcoin in 2017 when it was $1,000 to $2,000. He was saying make it 1% of your portfolio. He's also got a lot of blue chip investors in the game, including Peter Thiel at a 9.1% stake. And then all the indicators of why Ethereum is Wall Street's choice right now. Not their sole choice. I'm not going to call out Solana. I'm not invested in Solana. I'm also not invested in Ethereum. I'm invested in BMNR. Full disclosure on BMNR, I bought in at BMNR at $60, my friends. That was my cost basis. Okay, I traded my cost basis down to approximately $48, maybe a little bit higher. So I traded it all the way down, and I'm sitting pretty with it right now. And I would go back right now if I had a choice right now, rather than going through all the ups and downs or whatever. I would buy BMNR at $60 again right now. But I already have a big position, so I'm not going to buy more at this point. And I would buy it right now because it's $60. Not financial advice. That's what I would do, okay? I would do that. And I also like risk. I love it. I love the volatility. I love the game. I love the ups. The downs aren't as much fun, but I can get into the downs. And so that's what we've been talking about through the show. And of course, there is a bright future for this company. So I believe that I'm right. In fact, in my knowing, I know that I'm right. I'm not trying to be egotistical or cocky on this. When I find something that I know is going to be a winner, I double down on it. And to me, this is going to be a winner. So that is the story of what is happening. So there's a few questions there. Would you take profits on BMNR or wait a few years first? TC's asking me that. I'm going to take some profits at the end of the year, guys. So I lived through 2017 and 2018. I was sitting there at the table in 2017 skiing in Park City, Utah, I think it was, or Whistler, one of the two. We were in Whistler, sitting with 6 friends. We were looking at Bitcoin going up. I remember when Bitcoin ran up to like $20,000, we were trying to buy in at 14, 15, 16,000, something like that. My friends were buying all the way up to 18, 19,000. And I was trying to buy in and I couldn't get approved on Coinbase or whatever it was at the time. And so I couldn't buy. And then lucky for me, I couldn't buy it. Shot all the way freaking down. Okay. So I watched that whole saga and I watched it go all the way up and I watched it go all the way down. And then I bought my first Bitcoin around $3,000. I actually mined my first Bitcoin earlier than that. So I had mining equipment and my first couple Bitcoin got mined earlier than that at a lower price than $3,000. So I've watched the game and I've seen what happens. And so the euphoria is fantastic. And maybe we will go into 2026 and maybe we'll be in a situation where it'll keep running and it'll be great for Ethereum and it'll great for BMNR. Great. I want to take some profits off the table and I'll let you know what I'm going to do at the time and keep you informed. Of course, I'm going to see where it goes to end of November and December. I'll be looking at it and I'll see what happens. And if I feel like I've hit some of my targets on it, I'll definitely be taking profits off the table. And the crypto community willing, God willing, maybe we'll smooth into 2026. We'll have a dip. It won't be a huge drawdown. Maybe it'll be 30% on Bitcoin, maybe 40, who knows? And then maybe we'll go back up and smooth sailing through 2026 and we won't have a huge crypto winner. I'm still planning for the crypto winner. All right. So I'm planning for it and that's what I'm going to do. On MSTR, my plan is to take some profits. And I have some plans of what I'm going to rotate into. I'm not going to share that yet because I'm not going to say it until I'm 100% certain when I'm going to do it. And I'll give you some advance notice. but that's what I'm doing. And then if everything goes up and I still hold on to a portion of my positions and it goes to the moon, then I made a lot of money. I think the key for me on this is I think entering BMNR at $60 is still early. Personal point of view. How high can we go? There's lots of price predictions on YouTube. Go see what other people's price predictions on. There's lots of good tech analysis of what could happen. Do I think it's real that we could go past $100 in this cycle through October and November and December? I think it is real, but we'll see what happens. Ethereum obviously has to go to, Ethereum would have to go to, say, 8,000 or so for us to see BMNR going over 100. And if Ethereum goes to 8,000, BMNR might get close to 100 or maybe more. So you can run the numbers yourself on it. Look at the MNAV, which is about 1.3. Look at ETH right now, which is at 4,500, call it. BMNR is at 60 right now. So if ETH goes up to 8,000, that's what? Do the math. That's what's at 70%. So that would be a 70% run up. If it goes to 8,000, if it goes to 9,000, you're looking at 100% run up. So if ETH doubles, let's say to 9,000, I'm not saying that's going to happen, then, BMNR would go up beyond that, beyond a double. So that would be over 120 for BMNR. So we'll see what happens. We'll go watch Tom Lee on it. I think Tom's very bullish on it. I think he's more aggressive than other predictions on it. He thinks that 8, 10, 12,000, and he talks about 10 to 12,000 on Ethereum is real in this cycle. And I think that's extremely bullish on ETH. I personally would be ecstatic if we broke through 10,000. I don't think personally that may happen in the next couple months with Ethereum, but we'll see. And it's a good life. It's fun times. Enjoy yourselves. And then we got Remy. I don't think MSTR will outperform BMNR until MSTR has defense. Yeah, good point. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens when Bitcoin really starts running. And we'll see what happens if Bitcoin really moons. We'll see what happens to MSTR and see what happens on the getting its MNAV back. Right now, MSTR's MNAV is what, 1.3? And we'll find out. Somebody's mentioning Tesla in here. Yeah, Tesla's been running like crazy. So that is the name of the game. I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. If you do want to go and snag my book, I'd really be honored for you to get it and tell some people about it. It's been a love to create this book. Here it is. It's been a lot of work, but a lot of fun. I did a lot of research on this. Gave me tons of insight into companies like MSTR and BMNR, and gave me a much deeper understanding and appreciation of it. Also gave me a really good insight into what's going on in the world of our current economy. Gave me lots of insight into how the Fed actually operates. I actually really broke down and decoded the Fed and how it works. I've always been fascinated to hear how the Fed works, and things that sometimes are confusing. They have loops. So A goes to B and B goes to C and C goes back to D to B to A over to C and a B again. And so as I was trying to track down how the Fed works and how the money printer really works, I was doing the research to see how is the game really played. And it's confusing at a first look because our economy is clearly confused. We run on a debt economy, 34 trillion to say the least. And we run on a fake dollar. Our dollar is fake. It's not backed by anything. It's called fiat, which means decree, which means statement. So it's backed by the good statement of your government and the trust in your government. And I don't think it's lost on anybody that fiat in different cultures is failing. If you look at Argentina, Venezuela, you look at the inflation rates went up to 100% there in some years. And you look all around the country and all around the world, and inflation is a real problem. And you look at housing prices and the amount that houses have gone up as well, which is called asset inflation. And that's not fully included in the CPI, which is the Consumer Price Index, which is supposed to measure the increase of prices on baskets of goods and services that you buy. but it doesn't include the increase in your home value. So when you look at the increase in home value, which is asset inflation, when you look at the increase of college tuition, which has been about a 4.6 over the last several years, you look at the increase in even the stock market for people that haven't been invested in the stock market. When they printed a whole bunch of money in COVID, that drove the stock market way up. That's asset inflation. So the people who were in it benefited, but the people who weren't got screwed. And so asset inflation is a real thing. And so as I started to explore these things and just kind of investigate how the Fed works, how the money printer works, why CPI isn't accurate, it's really not 3% inflation. And then I started to look at it holistically. It became quite obvious that I needed to get this book out to more and more people, because if people aren't aware that a 10 or 12% return after taxes, after inflation, which is CPI, after asset inflation, after management fees, if they own mutual funds or 401k plans, and also after debt. So most people don't include their debt payments. But debt is the rate of return on all your money, because if you have money coming in from stocks and it's flowing in at 12%, but you have taxes flowing out at 20%, you have management fees flowing out at 1% and 0.5%, you have asset inflation eating away at 5% if you want to go buy a new house, or if you want to send your kid to college. You have all these things eating away at your wealth. So you have all this money flowing in from stocks, but then you have all this money flowing out from taxes, inflation, asset inflation, and also debt. And so if you were to have most people look at the money calculator that we've developed and look at the rate of return on all their money, they'd find out that 10 to 12% returns at best are 4%, at best. And when you factor all of that in, and we were talking to a woman earlier, not that we're giving her financial advice, but she's in one of our business programs, because I teach sales programs, marketing programs, speaking programs, all that. So she's in one of our business programs. And she was talking about her CD, and I was just sharing with one of my coaches. I said, yeah, like she's earning 4.5% on her CD after inflation and taxes, it's zero. So this is the world that the majority of the world is not woken up to yet. You have to look at things holistically, and it can't just be, hey, I earned 12% in the market this year. Like, you didn't. And even if you're earning 30% or you do 100% in a year, you would actually adjust that and go, okay, let me take out about 10% for all these other costs of inflation, asset inflation, taxes, fees, debt, etc. Make sense? So the estimation of effort of what it takes for one to get ahead is really disguised today, and it's masked. And so one thinks the estimation of effort is, if I do 12% in the stock market and I'm a good worker, then I'll be able to retire one day. But that's not the case for the majority of Americans or people across the globe. And so the estimation of effort to get ahead is not 10 to 12%. The estimation of effort to get ahead is more like 20, 22, 24, 30%. Make sense? Because that's how one can really get ahead with their money. So, and yeah, there's other things out there that are good. I know people know how to play their real estate game. It's not my game, so I'm not going to comment on it from any expertise, but I know people who do great, play a big game in real estate, and they get great tax benefits doing that. So even if they're earning 8 or 10%, after you take into account the tax benefits they get, the depreciation, that's more like 17, 18, 19% for some of these guys who know what they're doing, So the people who are getting ahead understand this at a deep level, and it's why they're getting wealthy. And the people who aren't, which is 99 point something percent of the population in the world, it's because it's the wrong estimation of effort. And that problem is sourced from how the money system really works, and it's traced back to the money printer. And so when you go read my book, because you'll really enjoy it, and I break it down simply, I don't use any of the complex terms. It's down below. You can go snag it. And I don't use any of the complex terms in there. And I just show you, here's how the money printer works. Here's how the banks are involved. Here's how the money gets to the U.S. Treasury. Here's who they pay the loan back to. And then they pass on the bulk of the problem to us through taxes and inflation. And that's what's fueling this debt economy. Like, without our taxes, like the government's in way worse shape. And without the money printer, which is being printed to be distributed to the U.S. government and also being distributed to the banks, that money printer goes on, but we feel it in our pocketbooks and we're getting crushed and our currency is being debased. And so it gets passed on to you. It gets passed on to me. It gets passed on to your grandmother who's sitting around and is like, I'm going to put my money in CDs and, I'm going to live a good life and great. And then they're shopping at the dollar store to eat their food. And then they're poisoned by the food because it's not real food. And then you create a whole nother problem from this. So it's systemic. And I'm of a believer, if you ever want to understand how to invest or be successful, you have to understand the source of the problem. And if one understands the source of the problem and can see the truth, then you spot the truth, you realize what it is, and then you move from the truth forward to investing in things that can help you win from a place of truth. But most of the world is in a place where there's a confusion. And however the confusion got started, I'm not going to point fingers to say anybody lied about it. There was just a system that was created that wasn't too bright. And that system that's not too bright, that's based on a fake dollar, is manipulated like crazy, which is what created Wall Street. And ultimately, they know how to play the game because they leverage your dollars. That's it. They leverage your dollars. You put money into a 401k, they pool your money and they leverage it. You put money into a bank, they leverage the hell out of it. So when you have institutions that are turning a dollar over 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times, and you have citizens walking around the world that were told that 10 to 12% is good, you got to question why. Why is that good when 10 to 12% basically means close to zero? And so we got to get this out. We got to get the world to understand this. The more the world understands and sees the truth, the more change will be demanded, the more people will move to understanding what's going on the blockchain, the more people will start to understand, what is Bitcoin? What is Ethereum? I should know something about this. And because it is the future technology, the whole world should know about it. Every single person on planet Earth should know about Bitcoin. Why? Not because they need to invest in it. They should invest in it, not financial advice. In theory, they should. But they need to know about it because it's the future. And by the time they look up, you're going to have people who are going to look up 10 years from now and go, what the hell happened? And maybe if we had this much attention in 1971 when we got taken off the gold standard, we're like, what's going on? What's happening? And in that moment, we're looking, what's happening? What just happened? And there's more people questioning it to go, is this the right choice? Is this a smart choice? Is this leading us to a better future? Maybe things would be different. And so right now we have a truth that's been put before us, which is Bitcoin. We have a technology that is far superior to what's happening in the banking systems. The banking systems are slow. Why does Wall Street want to go to the blockchain? Because the technology is superior. It's that obvious. Like if they can settle their trades and they can settle their money that they're moving in seconds rather than days. Do you know how many millions and millions and billions of dollars that is for institutions? It's huge. So they are going there because the technology is more it's faster. The technology is more secure because it's on a ledger and it's immutable. You can't change it. And the speed of the technology for them and the communication system that the blockchain sits on makes it easier to do business, faster to do business, more secure to do business. And they know that they are going to be left behind if they don't gravitate towards there fast. And so they're moving there. So follow the money. I wouldn't necessarily call it the smart money, just follow the money and get other people informed. Everybody on planet Earth needs to understand the blockchain, and they need to start with Bitcoin. And then they need to go and they need to understand Ethereum. Every single person on planet Earth. Or if they want to study Solana, just study the principles of it. But they need to know. And the future of people's pocketbooks, the future of their grandkids, the future of their personal economies depend on them understanding this. And if they don't, they're going to be very, very left behind. And to answer the final question for sometimes people who are new and asked and are like, I could never buy Bitcoin because it's at $120,000, or I could never buy Ethereum because it's now at $4,500. Just think, 10 years into the future. Think 20 years into the future. I find it hard to believe that we would not have $1 million Bitcoin. Like very, very hard. That's a 10x from here. I'm not saying this is going to happen in 2 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. at some point we're going to have $1 million Bitcoin. So if that's the case, we all want to make money now, obviously, but we also need to look into the future of like, okay, where's that money you're stocking away, theoretically, for the future, for the long-term play that is going to outpace the S&P 500, because the S&P 500 will not get people ahead, period. It won't. So what's the new choice? The new choices are here. So I hope this serves you guys, and I hope we all continue to educate people on this, and we're in this together as a group, and want to make sure that we help planet Earth and we help people out there. And you know, it's fun to be able to be here with you and share things and talk and get people's different opinions and thoughts. And I think we can win the game of money, which is why I rebranded this channel to Money Game, because you got to play it as a game. But if you don't know that you're the target, you know, then you're not even in a game. Like you don't even, if you don't know you're in the game and you're constantly the target, like you don't even know his game's going on. So to know the game that's going on, you first have to understand the source of the problem and truly know the source of the problem of money. That is so important, that everybody on planet Earth understands the source of the problem of money. If we don't understand that, it's hard to make confident, bold decisions in the future. Because if one understands how bad scenario A is, they'll be more likely to go to scenario B. But if they just hear people talking about scenario B without any comparable data, they'll just go, yeah, scenario B, you're full of crap. It's a scam. It's this. It's eventually going to drop. Yeah, it's at 120,000 now. It's going to go back down to 2,000. Yeah, that's just made up money. It's fake money. It's internet money. It's all this. And then you get negativity like that, and then it starts to influence you, right? And so when you're backed with just data and comparable data to go, yeah, here's the current money system. Here's why what most people are investing in today is not worth anything when you look at taxes, inflation, and fees and all this. And here's the real rate of return on your money. What would you like to do now? Then you open people up to the possibility. But just running in and trying to orange people and pill people and telling them all about Bitcoin or all about this new thing or all about this next thing without telling them the source of the problem, you're not going to get a lot of people that are open to it, because they'd rather stay in the Titanic on a slow leaking ship that might hit the bottom in the next 8 hours than jump ship on a life raft and swim to a new island. If they knew they were absolutely going to sink and they could feel the pain of that and they see it sinking and they really know that it's sinking, they would jump in the life raft and go to the new island. All right. Have an amazing rest of the day. You guys are fantastic, and enjoy it. And let's see what happens over the next 2 months with BMNR. Let's see how MSTR rallies over the next few months and strap in, because I believe we're going to be in for a great ride. See you soon.